Tom McKillop once said that running a pharmaceutical business was like trying to control chaos. So that's where I'm going to focus this conversation. These companies here you may be familiar with: Genentech, Centocor, Celgene, Cephalon, and my recent opportunity to lead Cipher. All these companies have many things in common, and you know them as successful businesses. But what I want to see is what you think about they have in common. Did their market cap go up over 20-fold? Did they have a lead product failure on their journey to be a successful company? Were they able to cover their payroll throughout their life cycle as a business? Did they become bankrupt, or did they have to actually reinvent themselves from the original platform they launched the company on? So if you have your keypads, this is like an NBA test. These are not simple answers. Number one is A and B are correct. Number two, A, C, and D are correct. Number three, they're all correct. Four, A through D are correct. And number five, B, C, and D are correct. So number three, 47% said all correct. So let's go through these stories, and then we'll retest that question later on in the presentation. So leadership is very important. We've seen companies like J&J go through the Tylenol situation and come out on the other side in very good shape. We've seen companies recently called Avio, an oncology company in Boston, failed to meet the guidelines of the FDA on their oncology program and watched 90% of its market cap erode overnight. But the companies I'm going to talk to you about will demonstrate many of these leadership talents throughout their careers. But the bottom line is it's good, effective planning up front before the disaster happened that really allows companies to come out the other side in good shape. So Genentech was started by Bob Swanson and Hubert Boyer back in 1976. Art took over the reins in the early 90s. The company was actually sold to Roche and the rest of the entity back in 2010 for $47 billion. If you really look at the math, actually Roche got it for free, because when Genentech was almost bankrupt, Roche picked them up and watched their share value of this entity grow dramatically over time. And so we've seen Genentech deliver way more than 20 times X. Their original platform in oncology for growth hormone for somatostatin didn't work out. They came out with a different formulation. But I would say Art and the team at Genentech really pioneered partnerships in bringing valuable compounds to the marketplace. There is not one Genentech product on the market today that didn't have partnering to get it to the market in the world. So it's been a phenomenal company, and it was the kingpin of oncology, which I think now people may see Celgene has taken over that. Centocor, started by Hubert Shoemaker. Hubert passed away roughly 10 years ago, back in '99. He sold the business to J&J in '99 for $5+ billion. He started the company in '79 with a vision of bringing technology to the marketplace. He obviously drove the market cap up more than 20-fold. But the original big compound after they got through their diagnostic business was Centoxin. They received a non-approvable letter. That was the platform product for the company, and they were bankrupt at one point. He had to reinvent himself and go back to real partnerships to drive the R&D delivery that they had going before, and was able to get RealPro approved in 1997 and resulted in the sale of the company 2 years later. Celgene, Saul gave the reins over a few years back to Robert, but interesting story. Twice Saul was unable to meet payroll for the company, and he had to pay out of his own money to keep the company going. If you know the story, they were trying to reinvent thalidomide for oncology. They got a little setback there. Revlimid is their big brand now. That's the reformulated version of that. But it's amazing, all these phenomenal companies. I think their market cap's, over 80 billion now. They're trading at 59 price-earning ratio. So they're seen as the most likely to have increased profits going forward of any company in our industry right now that's actually making money. So it's quite a story, and it's a company that's really reinvented itself, not just an oncology company, but right across the board in immunology and moving forward. Another great leader, Frank Baldino, who passed away back in 2010. Frank started his career with DuPont and had a complete platform that he started the company that failed. But Frank actually turned him into Mr. Wheeler Dealer in the industry. So everything that the company made money on was actually licensed in from somewhere else, and they brought it along and developed it. So nothing that Cephalon ever did, being a research organization, came to fruition. But Frank reinvented the company and was able to sell it. Well, unfortunately, it sold after Frank passed away to Teva for $6.8 billion. Cipher was started by Dr. John Mall here, the leader of CML Healthcare. It was one of his 3 companies that he had, and put the reins over to Larry. And I can tell you that Cipher was able to make it through many significant setbacks over its time frame, and running the company on fumes. And as you can see here, Cipher's actually been able to have a good run in the last 36 months on the share price as the revenue and profitability has been recognized in the marketplace going forward. And but the lead compound they had was abandoned. It was a budesonide inhaler compound. That was the first compound coming through, and that was dropped by the company. But Cipher is one of the only companies, to the best of our knowledge, a Canadian company has actually got 3 FDA approvals on their own steam. They didn't buy these approvals. They secured them from preclinical testing and moved them along and secured the approvals. So whether we're going to reinvent ourselves going forward, stay tuned. So let's look back at these companies: Celgene, Cephalon, Genentech, Cipher, and Centocor, and go back to our questions that we had. Number 1, A and B are correct, i.e. market cap went over 20x, and the lead product failure happened. Number 2, A, C, and D are correct. Market cap, and they couldn't cover payroll, and they were bankrupt. Number 3, all are correct. D, near bankruptcy, and as number 5, B, C, and D are correct. Oh, we've moved up to 71%. So at least I'm a good teacher. So the bottom line is leadership does matter. All these companies and all successful biotechs that I'm familiar with have gone through roller coaster rides, and it's really the leadership. And as I said earlier in the conversation, you need to plan for the scenarios of what's going to go come down the pipeline, left or right, and be ready for the good and the bad. So thank you for your time.